So today we have the honor to interview Paige Mcpherson. Paige is an Olympian. She's living in Miami now. She's from South Dakota, which she'll tell us about. She's the winner of a bronze medal in the 2012 Olympics in London, participated in Rio, and is now training for Tokyo. So thank you for being a part of this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Paige, can you tell us what is an obstacle you've overcome that has been difficult in your life?
I think one of the hardest obstacles that you have to overcome is yourself, right? Through all of the social pressures, through a lot of hardships we face, where we come from, even from, the external factor of your skin color, having those exterior factors make you yourself doubt what you're capable of. And I honestly believe that once you're able to empower yourself, self-care, self-love, and learning to listen to your inner voice, your inner spirit, that's when you'll be able to overcome those hard obstacles and in the end succeed not only for an inner situation, but external factors as well, be successful throughout your entire life.
So, as an Olympian and one that is in such unique circumstances, I mean, to think of, you're so fortunate in that you're elite to the point that you can be in multiple Olympics. Many spend all those years to try to get to one. And,
Yeah.
I've met and heard the stories of the Olympians in '80 that didn't get to go to Russia because we boycotted. You
Yep.
were delayed a year, right? And so you had to reconfigure your mindset. Um, how do you stay motivated? What gets you going? How do you redo it when you hit an obstacle?
I think that it's really important to understand that there's going to be moments where you're not motivated, right? There's going to be days where it's going to be really hard. There's going to be times where you may be injured or things don't go your way. I think it's really important to understand that the journey isn't just a straight shot to success. There's going to be a lot of ups as well downs. And so in those moments where you're not as motivated, you have to realize and to be more disciplined. I think discipline and the important factor of keeping your word to your coaches, your teammates, and most importantly, yourself, to continue the journey regardless of the outcome, to be willing to accept the good moments along with the bad. And one of the things that I really love about hardships is that it's kind of like a slingshot factor. The more you go back and back and back, one of those times it's going to let you sling to exactly your success. So I encourage everybody to really just, even on those hard times, is to stick to your word and go through the motions.
I've never heard that analogy. That's fabulous.
Oh, man.
In that thought process. That's great. What would you tell your 8-year-old self?
One of the things that I really am learning just even now is to be more present. When I was younger, I always wanted to be older. I always wanted to reach my goal like that, And I think also, this being, towards the end of my career, I've realized that the reason why I'm successful and the reason why I've had some success is that I've been able to turn off all the other factors and just remain present in the moment, not wait for the future to happen, but to just be happy where I am right now and figure out what I need to do exactly now. Because at the end of the day, your goal is just around the corner, right? You can't just be like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. You have to be able to let go of the outcome and the results in order to get the results. So when we're able to be in the present, that's when we're able to grow as a person, educate ourselves, and learn to be, more of ourselves.
Now that's fabulous. So Paige grew up in South Dakota. Could you tell us a little bit about you know, I feel that we're too, you know, we're in Miami. These students are all going up to Miami. You know, you mentioned other aspects, right?
Hmm.
Including some, you know, social justice and
Yep.
skin color and things that, you know, in Miami they're not that unusual, right? I mean,
Hmm.
you know, I was speaking to somebody else recently, and it came up. Look, so many of us are a blend. You don't even know you right in Miami,
Yeah. Yep.
and you know, you may talk to somebody named Smith, but you don't realize they speak Spanish, or you don't realize
Hmm.
that, you know, where their family is from, whatever. South Dakota is different. So
Oh yeah.
your hometown, and people don't know, Sturgis is well known. You told me it's 5,000 people, but they have 250,000 motorcycle riders show up every year. So I'm sure that
Yeah.
infuses some difference. So what was it like when you grew up? What was it like, you know, with your siblings, and
Hmm.
what did you learn from that?
Um, so when I first moved to Miami, it was definitely a culture shock. Like you were just saying, it's kind of like a melting pot of different cultures and backgrounds. South Dakota was not. Let's just be fair about it. Myself, adopted from by my parents. I have four other siblings that are of different ethnicities. We were literally the only different ethnicity in our region. You know, they would always joke of saying, "Oh, you've never seen a black person." Well, here I am, and my sister was there. You know, in the mix of those 5,000 people. So we were definitely in the spotlight per se all the time because we were different. And coming from a rural place where they have their own culture, it was very hard for people to accept a different, you know, person or even ethnicity around them. So it was definitely a struggle socially to be around that. But I think I've learned at a very young age is to find your tribe. My family is my backbone. The reason why I've been able to overcome so much hardship is because they were the ones at the end of the day were my foundation, my comfort, and my supporters. And so I really believe that regardless of your situation, if you're able to find those that accept you for who you are and just kind of stick to what you know, you'll be better off. And for me, I've always learned that in order to make a difference or in order to make a big change, it's not necessarily just about your voice. It's the actions that you have based off of your values. So, you know, I've dealt with a lot of racism, social injustices, but I've instead of, you know, lashing out or, you know, become this, you know, angry black woman, I've always been able to put myself and understand that in order to be successful in this situation is to be a bigger person at the end of the day and be better for myself. And when I was able to put my head down, focus, forget about everyone else, when I was able to achieve my goals and still be the person who I am, that's when people realize, wow, she's not what we thought she was. She's actually an amazing human being, etc. And I ended up making a change, I would say, in my hometown.
Yeah, and you know, I've read some articles from Bismarck, from South Dakota, where I think statewide newspapers, where, believe me, they put their arms all around you. They are responsible for that gold medals,
Yeah,
for that
yeah.
bronze medal. So a gold in Tokyo coming. You know, you bring up a lot of interesting points. We spoke to the University of Miami men's basketball coach, Jim Larinaga, and he had some very interesting things to say about social justice, et cetera. And there's one concern that I have, and I want to ask you about it. Um, as the father of teenagers, and knowing how quickly they can get information with their thumbs, right? And thinking that
Mm-hmm.
everything is so quick. One of the things I was concerned about this summer is when people said, we've made no progress. And then you listen to people leading the African American community, and they say, no, 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 no. Let's look at this. And I heard President Obama really give an unbelievable actionable kind of talk where he talked about, um, look at where we were in the 40s and the 50s and the
Mm-hmm.
60s, forgetting even going further back. How do you, what you just said of not getting angry is also a personal patience in going through it.
Mm.
How would you tell a 16, 17-year-old, look, it's not going to necessarily change. However, now take the baton and run with it and make change. Because when you look back even at the 1900s, you have a situation where multiple people couldn't vote, right? Women couldn't
Yeah.
vote,
Yep.
based on color. And, there are wonderful stories of the University of Alabama when Joe Namath came there, and the first African American student was a woman, but needed, like, the National Guard to go, right? So we've come a long way in some
Yeah.
ways, and yet we haven't come fast enough. How do we balance that patience in a not very patient world right now?
I think, in my opinion, I think it's really important to educate yourself, not only in the U.S. but in the world in general. The U.S. is the biggest republic ever. We're one of the most free in governments around the world. Through my training and getting to know other people and their story and their culture, at the end of the day, us as Americans are very fortunate in some areas. Not necessarily all of us, but for the most part, a lot of us have a lot more opportunities given other countries around us. So education is one. Two, at the end of the day, you have to realize that we're all human. We have each and every one of us have our own sins. And so you have to understand that some people, and especially the way they were brought up, the society that they live in, their background per se, their upbringing, affects a lot of each and everyone's own perception. So you have to understand that we're not going to see the world eye to eye. So the most important thing is to really try to understand from their perspective, and and be more empathetic, in my opinion. So I've learned a lot, as in I'm not perfect. I've done a lot of mistakes in my life. Who am I to judge? At the end of the day, I'm trying to be the best I can be. And so I encourage others to be the same.
Yeah, you bring up many things, self-awareness, and then pushing yourself, but yet being more accepting of others. I think it's fabulous. While you were talking, I was thinking I really had the fortune, of being the doctor on the floor, of the 16 games right next to where everybody
Mm-hmm.
with flags. One of the things that was remarkable as a fan of the Olympics for many years, you would see certain countries and they look the same, right?
Yeah,
From a
absolutely.
facial, a color, sometimes a size issue, at least the
Mm-hmm.
countries that have more than a few athletes. And that's changed. You
Yeah.
see many more people of color in some of the European delegations.
Mm-hmm.
You see people of Middle Eastern descent with the European. You see that, um, migration kind of thing. But the Americans have looked the same for a long time, right? I mean,
Yeah,
we've been
absolutely.
we've been every size and color and mix,
Yep.
and
Mm-hmm.
so there's a balance. And you brought up where, and something that jumped out at me is, this year an Iranian Olympian was killed because
Mm-hmm.
he was hung because of his, supposed speaking against what was going on. Um, and you brought that point up, it made me think of everybody this summer, or a large amount of people this summer wanting to protest. And I was thinking when you were just saying that, boy, there are a lot of countries around the world. You
Yeah.
could be right across the street from the White
You
House
can't, yeah.
talking
You can't
about the
even say
leader.
anything. Mm-hmm.
And in Miami, we kind of know this. I interviewed people who've come from multiple South American countries when the politics have changed. So
Mm-hmm.
where are we going? How are we going to get better in the next 20 years?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? How are we going to get better 20 years from now?
Um, I think we have a good start. I think that a lot of the young generation has a lot more opportunity and resources to be more aware of what's going on. It seems very much right now that everyone's kind of aware of what the world is, and how, and a lot of people are willing to be more active about the change. So again, I think we're on the right path. It's just going to take patience, but I do think it's going to be compassion and love that's going to change us. It's not going to be violence. It's not going to be anger. And so the more we understand that, the faster it will be to change.
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting. As you're saying that, I'm thinking clearly we had some tumultuous politics
Mm-hmm.
the last 4 years, but we're coming off of an attorney general, a president who are African American. Now we have a vice president who's going to
Yeah.
start who is of Indian descent and African American descent. Actually, her father is one of, you know, a tenured professor in economics at Stanford. Um, you know, I'd like to hear him speak. He's helped the Jamaicans multiple times in economics. My last question is, what's next for you? So after the gold next summer, what's next? You can continue to compete, or how do you use that competitive nature? One of the things I love people to hear from elite athletes is, okay, I know there's going to be a transition. What do I do next that's going to allow me that competitive outlet?
Mm-hmm. I think it's just to be okay with change. I think a lot of athletes, we're used to being more detailed in our life in order to gain success. And we don't like change at the end of the day. And so we have to be able to embrace it and understand that all of these trials, tribulations, all of the success leading up to this point is really just tools to start another journey, right? For me, this is my last hurrah. You won't be seeing me in Paris as an athlete anyways. But for me, it's really just kind of given me the courage to understand that, hey, I'm capable of doing anything. And that's really how life is, why we educate ourselves, why we train all the time, is to really just build our confidence in order to be willing and daring to go after what we want. So for me, I'll be transitioning very soon. If anything, I'd love to be able to give back to my Taekwondo community, of course. I'm biased to that, but just people in general. I was never the kid that was confident and knew I was going to be successful. If anything, I was my worst enemy when I started off. You know, I was the black sheep of everything. And for me to be able to be one of the people now making my third Olympics, I would have never believed that had you told me. But it's because of the people in my life, because of God, and just having those certain advice, listening to other people's advice, that's gotten me here today.
That was incredible. You were a phenomenal guest. I'm sure the students will love to hear you, and we look forward to seeing you compete in
Yeah,
Tokyo.
thank you. Thank you very
And
much.
no, I'll see you soon. Thanks for coming on.
Awesome.
Take
Yeah,
care.
and thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. Bye bye.
Bye.